Ahoy, hoy, friends. Welcome to the Salon. Tonight, we are talking about the last two episodes of Star Trek Prodigy Season 2, now on Netflix. Be sure to stream it and restream it. We are dying for a Season 3. We're going to talk about it tonight. Before we dive in and I bring up our intrepid crew, I want to share a couple of quick announcements, some little housekeeping tidbits, and then a really big, fun, exciting announcement. So, some quick housekeeping. I want to remind folks that we now have a website where you can find some highlights from the salon. You can find more on your intrepid crew, our favorite episodes and seasons and series, and fun facts. You can also find links to all of our social media and different ways that you can support us. It's incredibly helpful, and we are very thankful for everybody who is subscribed, following us on YouTube, on all the socials at Salon Trek. We're now also on Spotify, so be sure to give us a follow there. Leaving comments anywhere that you can is super helpful to help get this chaos out to more folks. And finally, we are now also on Patreon. We've got a free community tier, different ways for folks to engage with us for free, participating in different polls about what kind of content you'd like to see on the salon, and just engaging with us generally. And we also have a $2 and a $5 tier that come with some fun benefits you'll see at the end of the salon this evening, and some bonus content for those who give us $5 a month. That will be super fun. We have a poll out. Anybody can participate in it. This one's free, on what that bonus content should be for this month. Right now, commentary on my comfort episode, Devil's Due, is in the lead, but there are 2 more days to vote in that poll, so anything could change. Get out and vote. Vote early, vote often, in every way that you can. We definitely appreciate folks who are supporting us. Everything on Patreon is just to help defray costs. Nobody's getting any giant Indiana farmhouses out of this, but a few dollars thrown our way to defray the costs are super appreciated. We thank you for that. And I should have other people on here to do a drum roll, please. Da, 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 da. Weird drum roll. I'm bad at that. Big announcement. We are super thrilled to announce that our very first interview will be happening next week with the one, the only Aaron Waltke. We are super excited. He has joined us in the chat several times. It's been so fun to have him sharing behind the scenes tidbits. He is going to join us live next week. We'll begin at our regular time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, talking about season 2 in full. And then he'll join us at 7:30 for an interview with our panel. And time permitting, we'll try to get in some audience questions as well. So be sure to follow us, subscribe at YouTube / Salon Trek, and smash that notify me button. That live episode is there on our channel now. That's enough rambling from me. We are so excited. Let's talk about Star Trek Prodigy Season 2, episodes 19 and 20. But to do that, I've got to bring up my intrepid crew. As we know from Prodigy, no one can do it alone. Let's bring to the stage, first of all, I'm going to bring up Ken. Ken, you've been gone. Welcome back. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, Stanley. I'm so glad to be back. Yes, it's been incredibly busy since STLV. I've missed all of you. I've missed the crew. I've missed all of our fans. So excited for some of the stuff we're doing. And yes, let's talk Prodigy.
Yes, and your fans have missed you. Let's bring up one of them, Benji. Welcome to the salon. How are you, Benji?
Doing good. I'm thirsty. I'm horny. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, that's what we want. Welcome, everybody. Speaking of thirsty and horny, Matt, how you doing, handsome?
Wow, I haven't seen you in so long, but you remember my brand. I appreciate that. It's called continuity, which
more like
the timeline
continuity.
no longer has.
No, we're going to talk about it. Speaking of continuity, William, darling, welcome, welcome. How are you? Tired? On mute?
I don't know why I muted it. Hi, I'm good.
I want to
You got
highlight
me
your background for
mid-scratch.
folks.
Oh, yes. I thought this was very relevant to our discussion today, and I saw it and I immediately went, that's the background. So
Always
there we go.
relevant. That's Will.
Mhm.
Speaking of relevant, Krista, my friend, how are you? Welcome, welcome.
I'm well and relevant. Thank you.
Absolutely. And last but not least, before my co-host, I'm going to just say it, the only one I would save in a fire. Joanne, how are you, my friend?
I am well. I am well. And that is good to know. I need to burn some shit up, right?
Yes, always. The hot takes, Joanne's hot takes, burning it up. And of course, I can't do this alone. My co-host with the most to boast. I almost nailed it that time. Here he is, everybody. Trevor. How you doing, Trevor?
Speaking of things that are on fire.
Yes. Yes. The
I thought you got that
fire.
cleared up with the cream.
She's busy drinking.
Witty retort.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
we are so excited to see everybody active in the chat. Love to see it. Before we really dive in, speaking of things we love to see, not children. So the Salon, we love Star Trek. We love all of Star Trek, including Star Trek Prodigy, which, as you know, is a very family-friendly show. This one, however, is not. So if you randomly stumbled upon us because you saw Prodigy being discussed on YouTube, oh, my kids love that. This is something we could all sit down to get. This definitely isn't that, but we love you, and kudos to the kids, I guess. Don't put them in danger the way that Prodigy does. Let's talk about it with that disclaimer out of the way. Now, even more important than that little fun disclaimer, before we can really get into this episode, we simply must set an intention.
Indeed, we must. So to set an intention tonight, in honor of Gwen taking her rightful place in the captain's chair, I thought it would be fun if we went around the room and talked about a non-Trek captain who would be our favorite, our pick, our choice to watch and enjoy captaining either a ship or a base or some other thing that someone would captain, perhaps a volleyball team. And to start us off, I will, as always, begin by saying that I would be thrilled to watch an entire series, mini-series, whatever, around Commander Nella Darren. I'm kidding, Krista. I'm kidding. I did it just to fuck with you. It's not happening. No, not Nella Darren. I would love to see a series or a mini-series around the character that I think had the most potential out of the show that I liked the least, which is Star Trek Enterprise. I would watch a show based on T'Pol and T'Pol's command of something all day long. I love the actress. I love the character. I wish that we had gotten more from her. So my choice would be Commander, or in this case, Captain T'Pol. That said, let us go around the room, and we will start with the lovely and long too absent Matt. Matt, dear, who is your choice of a non-captain to become captain for your viewing pleasure?
You know, obviously my first reaction is Jadzia, because that's my first reaction for anything, because I want to see more of her and I love her. But I feel like that's not that much fun. Like, she was captain several times of the Defiant. Like, she did take command and we saw how badass she was, and I feel like we need something more messy. So I'm gonna say no, that's dumb and messy. We don't need to say Tuvix because that's too on the nose. I actually genuinely would love to see Captain Naomi Wildman. I think it would be great. I think it would be a fantastic launch pad for whatever happens post Picard. And I think it would be really fun to see her kind of navigating back into Starfleet as it is, rather than Starfleet as we have seen it in that stressful post Prodigy Picard era, and let her lead us back into more hopeful optimism. Unlike, it doesn't need to be an Enterprise. It could be something, a Sovereign class.
What a shock. Joanne, dear.
So my choice is Ro Laren. Hashtag Ro's not dead. Hashtag there's nobody. So, I mean, she's the baddest bitch alive and more than capable. And Picard loved her, and that's enough for me. Team Ro.
Oh, you're joining a team of Rohos. Will, dear.
Well, that bitch Joanne stole my answer. It would have been Ro.
We're
I think
kindred. We're kindred.
I know we've got this thing, you and I. We've got this thing. I think another person that I would want to see, and a non-captain character. I don't know. My thought also was like maybe Hoshi. It would be interesting to see her again because I thought I liked her character a lot towards like after the Zindi stuff, and I thought she was always like the most interesting character. But we all know that like sometimes Star Trek doesn't treat its women right. So yeah, I would and I would go with Ro or Hoshi. That's it. That's the answer.
All right, I'll allow it. Krista, now that you don't want to kill me because Darren was not my actual answer, what are your thoughts?
I don't hate the woman as much as it's been suggested. I think my first initial gut reaction was Jillian. I just thought, let's have a whale on the bridge. Like, let's do Jillian. But then
there be whales here in the
there
captain's
be whales
seat.
here, and Jillian, our will is with you. So I like the idea of Jillian, but I also thought with going along with Matt and the messy, I thought it would be funny to have like a expelled Q continuum member with all of that power, like not the Q that we know, but like to see what that dynamic would look like. You have the kind of power that all of the captains were all normal people, but to have one that has special powers, I just thought it would be messy and fun. But Jillian's actually might like it. I don't know that I'd watch every show, but a whale on the logistically that might be some fun.
You just need a slightly larger bridge. That's fine. Everything's fine. Benji, dear.
So I know this is maybe not the most creative answer, but I will die on the hill that Beverly Crusher is the best captain in Star Trek. She's the most commanding. I think 3 times that we saw her, if you include the Pasteur, she was on her fucking shit more than any other male captain for sure we have ever seen. She's the best. Watch my trailer for the Beverly Crusher series. And it's been like a long floating idea that there should be like a Star Trek like medical drama show. So just make it. She's there. She'll do it.
Star Trek ER would be my dream. Star Trek ER and Star Trek West Wing. Those are my two hopefuls.
Stan's working on one of those.
Excellent answer, and our first Bev alert of the night. Ken, my dear.
So I thought when we were talking about non-Star Trek captains, I was thinking, Captain Stubing, Commander Adama, Skipper from Gilligan's Island. I started thinking about who would be a captain in pop culture on one of the starships, but that's not what you're talking about. But I thought that
I'll allow it. Of those options, who did you?
It's usually Krista who misunderstands but still nails the assignment, and you're doing it tonight. So good job, Ken.
Yeah, I want to know who the answer is now. Who'd you pick?
Well, so I mean, but for some reason, Captain Stubing from the Love Boat kept coming in, but I want to go with Commander Adama, Captain Adama from now. Lauren Green, though. Lauren Green from the original Battlestar Galactica. I know. People are not happy about that. But if it was a Star Trek person, it would have to be Uhura.
So say we all from the 70s.
Yes.
But Uhura, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I love it. Your choices are Nyota Uhura or the corpse of Lauren Green. I love it.
That's it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
that you misunderstood and you still won. So nice job, Ken. Fearless leader, please take us home.
So I'm giving all of these people a field commission to be captains. Mine has got to be a what if scenario. It's a universe in which Tasha Yar did not die. I would love to see Tasha in the command seat. The scenes that we did get of her that weren't just, her legs behind the captain, where she's actually doing something, particularly the Binar episode. She has a very commanding presence. The way that she was in the, obviously in yesterday's Enterprise, but also in the finale and All Good Things. I think seeing Tasha in the captain's chair would be excellent. And also in this what if scenario where she lives, Picard does die with the Borg cube, and Shelby still leaves to rebuild the fleet, but Tasha is Captain Will Riker's #1 and eventually captain later on. And now I just have more ideas that I want to write, and I'm not even finished with the ones I've already had. Excellent intention setter, Trevor. The intentions are set. The wax ain't being wasted tonight. Let's get into it. I'm vamping only because I want to keep talking about this show. I love it so much. I'm both excited and sad that tonight we're talking about the final 2 episodes of season 2. I very, very, very much hope that they aren't the series finale episodes. Desperately hope we get a 3rd season. But if not, goodness, what a beautiful way to wrap up the story. There's certainly more that can be done. Let's get a season 3. But the way that season 2 wraps up is excellent. So let's talk now about our top thoughts. I love these episodes. I thought they wrapped up their story beautifully. We get a little bit of an epilogue, which can be a little wonky. We've seen in other shows, and other franchises, I mean specifically. But here we get so many threads weaved into just this beautiful tapestry of a beautiful show. The visuals are stunning as always. That bitch Essentia gets knocked the fuck out by Gwendala, and I love to see it. I love to see it. We get Gwen ascending into an acting captaincy. Dal having a really wonderful and not very often seen in YA content or content generally, a male hero realizing, actually maybe I should take a step back and play a support role a little bit. I think it's a wonderful example to set and makes a whole lot of sense. And we had a lot of really touching moments, including seeing Will Wheaton and his space mom get to interact in Star Trek again, which is lovely. I have so much to say, but I'll hold it there. Let's do our quick top thoughts before we deep dive into the episode. Ken, go for it.
Yeah, I think that, again, Prodigy proving that while it is labeled a kid's show, it's much, much, much more than that. It is really true Star Trek in so many ways. Bit of an over-the-top villain chewing scenery in true Star Trek style towards the end here. The timey-wimey stuff. Every single one of our main cast had their things to do. And they all had their arcs closed amazingly well, at least closed for now. And it paid homage to where Star Trek was, and it pays homage to or leads towards where Prodigy can go. So that's really my top thoughts. I think they hit it out of the park in every possible way. I'm looking forward to discussing it in more detail with everybody.
Benji, give us your top thoughts.
Yeah, this was a very dense 2-parter. I was somewhat confused by the timey-wimey wormholey stuff, to the extent that I went and read a bit of a summary of what was going on in the plot, and it did help. I actually recommend getting some, I don't know what you guys call them. We call them Cole's Notes, Cliff Notes. I was also thinking, like, if this has to be the final season, I think it is a good send off. They tied together like a very complicated plot. It comes full circle at the end. Fortunately, they work in like this very touching montage. Great soundtrack. Like, it was really like getting a little glassy eyed there. And even though it ends on a cliffhanger, it, like, the fact that it ties into like Picard season 1 stuff, I think at least you have somewhere to go. So I would not be disappointed with this as an ending, but of course I want more. Yeah, that's it for now.
Krista, my friend.
I loved it, and the thing that I loved most about it that Benji just talked about is the montage. The way they ended it, they kind of covered their bases in the event that they don't get a third season, which I think we all hope for. But if they don't, they provided a significant amount of closure so that you feel like it's complete. And then they sort of dropped a cliffhanger in there that ties in with another show and events happening in another show. And it almost doesn't feel disappointing to believe that even if they don't get a third season, which I hope they do, but if they don't, it's not disappointing to think that they're out there doing what they do while all this other shit in the other shows is happening. But those kids are still there. And one thing that I failed to mention in all of the 20 friggin' episodes is the subtlety of how they have written it so that it appeals to their audience in a way that each adolescent can see themselves, even to the point that the height differential between Gwen and Dal, in that she's a foot taller than he is. It's at that age group, that's not abnormal. And it's a very subtle thing, and it could be species specific, but it's a subtle thing that I think points to the care that they take in how they want to appeal to a very specific audience. And we are just the lucky adults that get it as well. But it's the kids that it's designed for. And I think it speaks to care. And I think it would be a loss if we don't get a third season or a fourth and a fifth.
1000%. Will, give us your top thoughts, as only you versatility can.
Yes, hated it. No, kidding. Could you imagine? No, of course it's great. Like, it's a wonderful ending to a wonderful season, and they're tying everything up. Didn't feel, oftentimes it feels like when a season wraps up, kind of like in a way like this we've seen recently, or not even Star Trek, but like other series, where the last 2 episodes are so dense, it feels like you're racing to a finish line, and not in a good way. It just feels like they're cramming the rest of this information into the last episode. But for as dense as this episode was, it felt like it mirrored the density of this season. So it felt like it had a lot of ground to cover, but because they laid a lot of ground, not because they didn't cover it, if that makes sense. And again, it's beautifully animated, it's beautifully written, it has just enough sentimentality and enough heart to it to make people Walter's in need of a lot of attention today for some reason. But without it being schmaltzy or maudlin. So it's a great ending, and even like Krista said, it felt like watching it again that there was enough of a wrap up here, and it felt like there was like any show, they don't know if they're going to be if they're going to continue for another season immediately. So even the first season felt like there was a certain level of finality to it, and even this season feels the same way. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting. I lost my train of thought. Walter distracted me. Great. Anyway, moving on. Great, loved it. It's brilliant. Moving
We'll
along.
pick up that train later. I'm
Girl, I don't
sure.
know where it went. I do not know where it went. My brain is mushy bananas, Diva. I don't know what's going on.
There are a lot of wormholes to fall into, so we'll
Joanne,
try.
save me, darling. Save
Yes,
me.
Joanne.
So I really love these last 2 episodes. They're probably my favorite of this back half after maybe episode 10. I just love the completeness of it, the full circleness of it. I agree with DT. Visually, it looked like Children of Mars, the short track, bring back short tracks. And it was, I like that little moment. And I loved where it ended. Because again, we all, if you're in the Trek fandom, you kind of knew what that moment meant, right? And where the story was kind of going next. So it made you excited to see, what their part might be in it. So I thought it was a great way to kind of end the season. And the scene on Solom, the beatdown of Essentia, that whole moment was, it was just perfect for me. I love those weird, obscure cultures and things that happen. It was just a full circle moment for me. So, like, I was just, standing up, applause, applause. Shantae, Shantae. So, yeah, loved it.
Matt, welcome back. Give us your top thoughts on these last 2 episodes.
I thought it was the perfect way to end the entire. I've been up and down with this season as far as episode to episode. I can take it, I can leave it. I know I haven't been here to really voice everything. I've liked it overall, of course, but like this whole thing at the end just wrapped everything up so perfectly, I think. It did feel like the ending with Janeway going back after the, attack on Mars. It felt like that was tacked on to kind of be like, here's the ending and here's where we go next. Um, in a sense of like I don't think they were fully expecting another season. Obviously, we all want it. But I think they did it really well. I obviously loved the time paradoxes and explanation of everything. I thought it was so elegantly simple that the answer to everything was that we have to start it again. Like it was this whole like complex, where do we go? Yada yada yada. I actually and I guess we can get into it later too. But the wormholes specifically I thought was very elegantly done from like a Trek standpoint. And I liked it.
And if one thing Matt knows, it's holes.
And
Trevor,
time travel.
Sure.
I'm not letting you have
Trevor, your top thoughts.
I don't want to gush, but I kind of have to because I loved it. Like I feel like we're just like nobody has really anything negative to say, and I'm gonna just let that be okay. I don't have any criticisms. I love me an epilogue. I've talked about that before, and was just really enjoying the tiny little glimpse that we got of Janeway's sort of retirement and then return to the fleet. I still don't understand the comm badge thing, and I have questions. Like that weird random throwaway line of "We don't even have enough comm badges." Like, do you not have replicators? I'm confused. Anyway,
I've decided it's hyperbole. It's just him being hyperbolic. But
I'll allow it.
because I share
did-
your chagrin about that line.
Wait, no, I thought about
Sure.
it, and I took that to mean we don't even have enough comm badges, as in like individuals are comm badges, meaning like he's not talking about officers. He's meaning like physical people, because each person is always assigned a comm badge. So like if you say we don't have enough pants to go around, meaning like people to fill the pants, like we don't have enough people to wear the comm badges, is where I took that upon like the third watch of it. But that's
The only
just
reason
me.
the only reason I'm even considering that is because that sounds like something Jellicoe would do. Refer
That's
to
what I mean. Yeah,
entire
like
swaths of people as comp badges.
that's
I'll
what
allow
I
it.
mean. Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But
I was just thinking, what in the Darmok is he talking about? And then like I kind of got there. I like, yeah,
in
I can
retail,
see it.
physical locations are frequently called doors. Like it's a like I get it. I get where you were going. Um, and thank you. You may have put a little band-aid on that for me. So thanks, appreciate it. The one thing that I didn't hear mentioned that I really, really enjoyed was that there was a pretty fair amount. I can think of at least 2 or 3 lines offhand of humor for Rock. I love Rock being funny. The voice actress is brilliant at delivering the lines. Her timing's great. So just enjoyed that bit of writing, and that it was an incredibly heavy couple of episodes. There was a lot going on and a lot to finish up and a lot to tie up. So giving us a little bit of humor was brilliant and well executed with that character, because we didn't get it a lot. Usually Murph did something silly or Jenkum says something funny. Giving it to Rock was fun, and I enjoyed that. I spoke last week about a little bit to what Stan you alluded to earlier with the significance of a male character giving space and stepping back and not having to fill a leadership void just because he's male, but actually deferring to a more qualified woman was helpful, powerful, good, all those things. I will say one thing that no one else said, probably because no one else experienced this, because I'm the weirdo. Totally cried during the montage. The music, the imagery, the fact that there had been a line previously that has sort of been a chord throughout all of Prodigy, which was sort of finding your place in the universe because there's a place for everyone. That idea hit me in several different directions, and I, you guys know me, so I cry at the drop of a hat. So it's not like a revelation or anything that's occurred, but it occurred, and so I just felt like sharing during this this little episode review. All in all, I don't know that they could find the only reason I would hesitate to say I'm excited about a season 3 is because I don't know that they could end a series better than they ended it. But I'm willing to give this group of writers a shot because they've surprised me at every turn. Those are my
Well
thoughts.
said. Well said, everybody. Yeah, I mean, but what a fun challenge to take on. We had this wonderful second season. Let's see what we can do with a third. Which is something no, I was so close to being able to nail that joke, but I've only had one boyfriend and we never went down that road. So
You could probably push the button just for thinking it.
yeah, there's something about you needing a third. Here we go.
Problematic gay alert.
I don't recommend it. Anywho, let's talk about Salon. This bitch. Talk about reaping what you sow. Essentia, drama queen that she is, seeing the city being ransacked by the resistance, fighting back against her horde of dreadnoks, goes fully nuts and launches all of the ships, opens up all of the wormholes to attack Starfleet. Let's talk about our general thoughts on Essensia's nonsense. Anybody have thoughts on where we find Essentia at the start of these episodes? Ken?
Well, as I said earlier, I think that she was way over the top, definitely scenery chewing, in the Wrath of Khan style kind of way. So I think in some respects that that fits Star Trek, but I think that there's also a subtlety to villainy that we didn't really see here. But I think partly because this is a kid's show and they want to just go over the top with the villainy. We've had our fair share of very subtle villains, quote unquote villains in Star Trek. But this bit was just her going absolutely batshit crazy. And, I thought it was very well done. And I think it gave a chance for our heroes to really go for it and defeat the villain. And I think, again, this kind of show has to make it pretty clear who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. And we saw that here in this two-part finale.
And we got some fun fight scenes, another between Gwendala and Essentia, but we also got to see Murph kick the shit out of Dreadnought. Or what was her Dreadnought called? Or are they all Dreadnoughts? I can't remember.
I think they're all Dreadnought.
I think they're all Dreadnoughts, yeah.
Yeah, because
Maybe
her
seafood
name was
show?
different. She was the Vindicator, but they all have dreadnoughts. Yeah. Other thoughts on the fight for Solemn? The Quantum of Solemn? William?
Yeah, I like the kind of I liked how she was ended up being defeated instead of Gwen being the one to overpower her and defeat her. That the rest of this what are the people of Solemn, they all came together
Not
and kind
Nakat.
of like yes, thank you, the Val Nakat. But they all came together and like helped, like it was them together that defeated her instead of her just like saving them. They saved themselves.
Yeah, I don't know about the word help, but yes,
Yeah,
they were helpful, but
right,
they
whatever
definitely
they did.
stood back.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
hey,
They gave her a
those
good
thoughts
shot in
and
the
prayers-
arm.
Those thoughts and
Yeah.
prayers worked at least. So
Hey, you
kudos
know
to
what?
them.
Don't let the Republicans hear that. I uh anyway, no, it was great. And I also thought it was funny that like poetic in a way that Essentia just kind of like she kind of just like she goes too far and just kind of snaps herself. Like she kind of did like she pushed herself too hard and she kind of just like broke her own brain, it looked like it was a little like it was almost kind of sad. Like it was, I don't know. It just hit a little. I mean, I'm just tired, but it hit a little different. Where it was like, oh, she like cooked her own brain. It felt it, and also felt like kind of just like very dark that happened to her. Like as much as I was like this bitch, anytime she came on screen, I was so pissed. But like I wasn't expecting her to like fully stroke out.
Yeah,
Like it was a little brutal. It was a little brutal, and like we don't see her like you know like going and like oh nicely like cleaning things up or like she's just kind of like staring into space and her eyes were all big and I was like that's
and she
Mama
got that
took me to the ass and
that
didn't come
cliche
back.
line that cliche what did I do line that it was just so tasty. It works so well.
Yeah, but she was like evil to the end, but to the point where it destroyed her. Like she
Yeah.
destroyed herself. It was poetic, but it was also like for a kids show, really fucking dark.
But no,
Like
do
that
you know
she
what-
Matt.
like
Let's go to Matt and then Krista.
yeah.
Do you know what it reminded me of though? It reminded me of the ending of Avatar: The Last Airbender when Aang has all and his eyes glow and he takes away the bending like and that's a kid's show. So it actually felt very Nickelodeon to me, which I thought was really a really great thing. I absolutely loved the kind of cliche, you know, everyone loves her and she gets everyone's power and then her eyes glow and she has just relaxed like nope, thank you. Like bye. I actually thought when I first saw it and she first did that, I honestly thought that Essentia died. Like I thought that it was like fried her brain, that was it, and Essentia was like gonna go down. And that would have also, I mean, I would have enjoyed that a lot. Maybe a bit dark for a kids show, um, but I fully agree that I loved how all of that kind of tied together in the end, and we got to see. It's so rare that you feel like the bad guy actually got what was coming to them, and especially with the Sensi, I've hated her for so long that I was like, thank you, yes, thank you, fuck you, bitch. Like, yeah.
Krista.
I thought what was interesting about her is the entire time the animation of her was very pointed and pinched. It was very like as though that was to represent determination. Everything was very hard angles, and then after her brain sort of blew up, the thing that I noticed was that her eyes became very large, and to me it felt like absent the fear, the vengeance, the determination to do all of these things, she was kind of left wide open, and her eyes being much larger than they were for the entire season, darkly lined. If you go back and you look, she looks like one of those Hallmark big eyes, that big eyes artist with the kids with the big eyes. That's what she reminded me of. Also, I have a question. When they all formed to join their will, the one with the head wrap, isn't that supposed to be Essentia at a different?
Yeah, that's current day Essentia.
Okay, so it's kind of like what happens when you face your own demon. Probably not for kids, but yeah, fuck it. That's where my head went. And that's,
Well, I mean, we're talking about a kid's show
for a
that
dummy.
constantly puts them in danger. So,
Well, this is what I'm saying. I mean, she's looking at herself giving power to her opponent. I'm just saying, her eyes blown. She was blown. That's it. I have nothing really relevant beyond that.
anything? Go ahead, Joanne.
I love the collective power of that moment, right? With all of them sort of coming together. Really, it literally was like just the sheer power of will. And just, as they were all kind of lending their will to her, I was just like, oh my God, screaming like resistance is not futile, right? It was just them saying, no, you know, we don't want this, right? And we're just going to give our will to Gwen so that she could just resist, right? Because she didn't overpower. She sort of resisted until um I was just like Jamil refused to succumb. And such a brilliant way to defeat an enemy. Just just brilliant. So I loved it.
Absolutely. Trevor.
It's almost as though if a large group of people come together on November 5th, no, on a specific day to defeat a tyrant, they can channel their thoughts and energy of joy and goodness to defeat said evil.
In addition to thoughts and prayers, how about some policy and change? Vote. Speaking of changing things, let's change up topics a little bit. So we've talked about what's going on Salon. How about up on Voyager? We've got a lot of holes that need to be filled or taken down or ripped apart. Your guess is as good as mine. Thoughts on our intrepid crew being together to science those holes together so that they could funnel through it.
I just have to say it's technically not an intrepid crew; it's a Lamar crew now. So,
oh God, if I roll my eyes any harder, they will fall out of their sockets. Yes, Matt.
There's a banner that's appropriate for that comment.
Which one is it? Can't
I have so many negative ones.
Only because it came from Matt.
Oh, right. I have so many.
Thank you. I will have to say though, on a legitimate,
works.
I actually wrote this quote down because I'm going to count this as part of their. When this is a big thing for me because it almost was like an entire summary of what I've been thinking for everybody complaining about. Oh, disco's different and it does this and yada yada yada. When Wesley says small changes to the timeline don't matter as long as we make sure the big stuff still comes. To me, that was such a good explanation of all of everyone's complaints about Star Trek. Yes, fine. Khan comes 10 years later. Yeah, the Connie looks a little different. Yeah, you don't remember things exact. Like, it was just one of those moments where it was like, it was the big stuff that really did matter, that it came.
Problematic gay alert.
I was so thrilled that it came. I was...
Problematic gay alert.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's my big thing. And obviously seeing Voyager...
Problematic gay...
The quantum
Mr. Big
torpedoes.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
Somebody's big thing came. Is that what we're talking about here?
Problematic gay alert.
There we go. I'm gonna just shut up now because that triggers a lot of those alerts when I open my mouth.
Or your hole.
Problematic gay alert.
Hey, I
That
will
was a
say, Matt.
problematic ally. That was a problematic
true.
ally right there.
You thirsty bitch.
In the arms of the angel.
I love you.
Ah,
I love you. You're so
Michelle,
good.
Michelle, how does Michelle thinking about all this? So I agree with you, Matt. As someone who has been called a TOS fan every now and again, I think that the idea that every little thing's changing as long as the big stuff happens, I understand that. That makes sense, and that's a really good thing for the traveler to say. That's a very good call out, Matt. Good point. It's a big thing to come. Good thing, Matt. Your big thing came.
Problematic gay alert.
There you go.
I'm scandalized, Ken. I am scandalized. This is
Scandalized
not
why?
your
Why
normal wheelhouse, is what I'm saying.
What's
Normally,
the
you
normal
just shake your
wheelhouse?
head in disappointment.
What? Why? Explain.
The
Explain,
normal
Chris.
whalehouse is citation off.
She just did.
No, I'm saying normally you don't even indulge in the double entendres. You shake your head in shame, like, oh, you non-Gen X.
Oh,
Oh,
Ken, did you have a
born
glass of
after
wine
the
tonight?
Greatest generation ever, which I share, and sometimes I agree with you, but you've come back and you're on fire, baby.
Fire, baby.
Wait,
Such
who's backing
fire,
you? Come on.
You're on
baby.
fire, baby.
Problematic gay alert.
We may hit a record this evening.
Okay, let us. What's the next topic, fearless leader?
Who knows? I do. But other thoughts on the folks up in the ships having to science the shit out of these holes?
All right,
I
hit it. Go
really
ahead.
loved. I really loved that Rock kind of found the missing piece. It would have been so easy to let Wesley science it, but I love the fact that it was Rock who kind of made the time make sense and the timelines work, kind of like she did in Time Amok, like she was the critical piece there. So I was like, again, lovely, very Ouroboros, lovely full circle. I say it all the time. Prodigy is the most well crafted story of Star Trek in a very, very long time. So I love that. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To your point, Joanne, I think that we all know when Star Trek gets totally bogged down with technobabble. It's been doing it for 40, 50 years. And this could have very easily been bogged down with technobabble, but it didn't. And the fact that Rock, was the one who constantly comes up with, like you just said, Joanne, with all the answers, and the kid figures it out. And again, for a kid show, it's much more than a kid show, but it's doing its part as a kid show to show that it's the kids that are smart, that science is good, you can figure it out. And there's nothing wrong with being a smart person and really hitting the books and solving problems. And that's just beautiful.
I like the relationship that Will is kind of, you can see, developed with Rock. He probably sees a lot of himself in her. And I like that, in the montage we have at the end, they're together and obviously doing some math problems or something. But I agree that there's a certain level of irony that one of the criticisms of Voyager is that show was so weighed down by technobabble. It was just, they would just technobabble their way out of any problem. It's to the point where sometimes the show was almost written in a different language. because of the amount of technobabble, but how this show is kind of like a spiritual successor to Voyager, that it's taken the technobabble and like made you go, oh, it's because they're smart. Like they're using this stuff because the people using it, you believe, know what they're saying when they're talking about that, and like talking about the science and like bringing it together. And I think it was just really cool that like, you know, that's ironic that that's how this series is like took something that was such a fault of Voyager and has kind of mastered it in a way. But yeah, and I think it's really cool, and I like that Rock is my favorite character just because she's like, I don't know, I just like Rock, but she's such a sweetheart, but like also smart and like cares about everyone and works so hard and like, but also really enjoys what she does. So I like that a lot. But yeah, and then the little moment on the transporter pouch, like I love you, and she's like bye. It's so cute. Anyway,
I love when Will gets to have a little sweet moment because he's usually so bitchy. That's great.
shut the fuck up.
And he's back.
Shut your fucking mouth.
True though, Will. You get all
She's
sensitive
sweet.
and
I
then
like
you're
her.
You're like, I love her because she said she loved people and fuck all of you. And then you want to like kill your camera. You can't deal with it. But really, you are sensitive.
I said that I felt a different Will related to her. I contain none of these emotions.
You're such a fucking liar.
Well, you talked about Ken being hot tonight. What about you?
Wow, seriously.
Over here.
This is
Damn,
always
girl.
in the best way.
All right.
All right. So we've talked about the Mortal Kombat that happens between Gwen and Essentia, and through the power of thoughts and prayers, we get to see some success. But then, oh shit, it's a little too late. The loom is on its way, and then we move our way rather seamlessly into the next episode. I'm curious about Trevor's thoughts here because he is notoriously anti two-parter. But the other thought that I had on the transition here is how wild it would have been to have to wait a week, just 1 week for this conclusion. I like. It could have been fun, but it like the binge of it all being on Netflix. It's been an interesting experience with this season. But Trevor, why don't you kick off? Why don't you answer my prompt?
So once again, Prodigy breaks the Trevor rule of not liking two-parters, mainly because I think in part because of the length of these stories. For some reason, for me, TNG two-parters, Voyager two-parters, even some DS9 two-parters, though they kind of steered away from them and just did some weird congruous stories from time to time. But it always seemed like they had 60 minutes of story, but had to somehow tell 80 minutes of story. So it was the second part always felt meh to me. In a 22 to 30-minute story, if it's a two-parter, it still lands at around between 40 and 60 minutes. So it feels cohesive. It feels like one solid story, and it doesn't shake me up as much. They also do a really good job of the best of both worldsing of it all in terms of what the cliffhanger actually is. The stakes are very high. It's compelling. You want to see what happens next. And when you get that conclusion, like I said, having a little to do with the length of how much time is left, they can just tell 20 minutes to 22 minutes of story and wrap it up. So you're not waiting a full 40 minutes just so that you get a satisfying resolution to that cliffhanger in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the episode. So for me, that works, and Prodigy continues to shatter that Trevor stereotype of being very anti-two-parter. But what did you guys think? How did you feel in terms of how the two-parter resolved itself and how these stories worked together as a very best of both worlds kind of moment, in my opinion?
Well, it kind of was. I mean, obviously, it was a two-parter, but the loom showed up, so the whole essentia of it was kind of solved in part one, and then the looming was really part two. So while it was a two-parter, you kind of there kind of was a clear divide as to we had the bad guys over here, and we solved that, and now we have the temporal bad guys over here, and now we got to deal with that. So yeah, but I liked how it flowed together, and obviously it flowed together in the sense of we're going to wrap up the whole season arc. Um, but I think it did a great job. I think it was seamless, and what you're mentioning about it's really hard to think about what this all would have been like if we had to wait week to week. Just all of it. It would have been a whole different experience. Um, and a question for later is, if there is a season 3, what would you guys prefer? Another binge dump or week to week? Anyway, it's for another time. So
it does feel like having them all available at once is better for the target audience in terms of their attention span and willingness to wait a week to find out who lives and who dies. But we can talk more about season 3 desires later. Stanley,
Well, especially if you're gonna have like 4 episodes during school, no episodes during the holiday, then more episodes when they're back in school. Y'all have heard me rant about Paramount. Like, first of all, how foolish must people at Paramount feel? Well, no, they have no shame, which is why they're being sold. But yeah, the scheduling nonsense of it all. I'm glad we got to binge it this time. Was somebody going to share their thoughts on the two-parterness of it? Matt, I saw something noodling around that face of yours. You have a face. What?
I have something kind of. I know I haven't been here, so I obviously haven't been able to talk about. I hate the loom. I think it's dumb. I think I didn't like them as enemies. I didn't find them particularly, like, they were just a threat. They were there as a threat. Like, that didn't really make sense. It didn't, like, I get it. It was another thing to overcome, but I was just kind of like, I loved that first part so much. We got so much in it. We got so much character action, and we got so much ship, and like everything was great. And then it was just, I didn't. It was like, oh, now the loom's here, and I was like, well, of course it is. Like, and I know they were supposed to be, like the unstoppable force of the universe, and that is something that we were supposed to feel terrified by or whatever. But like, I just, but I did love it as a two-parter in general. Kind of to Trev's point too, I fully agree that a lot of two-parters in Star Trek are just trying to stretch out so much to cover those that full time. But this one somehow, not only was it shorter episodes, but we also got like an entire other storyline at the end of it when the post Janeway leaving Starfleet or retiring, and the whole lead into Picard. So it almost was like it proved that you can not just do it well, but like you don't need that much time to do it. And imagine how much more you could have packed. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Speaking of cramming things in, I love that we also got. That's not what I was doing. Stop making a face. That face of yours.
I have a face.
I'm talking to Matt. But I love that we got another.
Both making faces.
We got another fun cetacean ops moment for Jillian, and not only did she save the day, but like we there's something new in Trek lore that I noticed just on my rewatch today, that like I thought she was like calculating things, but no, like the way she swam, the ship would move, which is really fucking cool. Tom Paris could never. Thoughts on Jillian? I know Krista loves Jillian. I mean, everybody loves Jillian. Will, go for it.
I love that you mentioned that it adds something new to Star Trek lore. Like I feel like sometimes we don't get a whole lot on occasion, like not more specifically for like Starfleet sometimes and the Federation, where it's like, oh, we don't really get a like more cool shit. Like it's just like something interesting that's like builds on stuff. And like it makes you think like, oh, like we're humpback whales necessary for space travel? Like we can't travel at certain speeds without a whale? Like that's crazy. Like and it's cool. And it ties into a movie, it ties into a bunch of other stuff, into like the Trek nerds who noticed that the Enterprise D had a cetacean ops on it by looking at crudely drawn blueprints. And like that's really cool that we got like lore out of this. Like it felt like there was a little more to it than just and it was critical to the story. It's not the fact that they have like a whale crewman, which is like super cool, but it's like that like it's also a member of the crew that they like and respect and talk to and like has necessity and agency is really interesting. But it's cool lore. I don't know. It's like fun. It's fun.
Yeah. Krista.
I just like the idea that sometimes the advancements that you find yourself depending on fail, and you have to be able to go back to the fundamentals. You have to be able to go back to the physical calculations in your own mind, or in Jillian's case, using the sonar, however she does it. And I love Jillian, and I love the message that it's not enough to master the technology. You have to kind of master the pre-technology, the pre-communication, the pre-stuff that happened before, because you may be in a situation where you have to, forage and make a fire. I don't know how to fucking do that, but I mean, you may find yourself in a situation where you have to, and those things are important. And it made the whole montage of it at the end in the epilogue, where we go from the beginning all the way to now, even more important, that what these people built. But it's a history. The entirety of the history is important, not just the moments that you participated in. And that's what makes the loom so fascinating, is that they have the power to remove entire histories. I mean, at the end of episode 20, I was like, where the fuck did the loom go? Like, what universe did you send them to? Where did they go? Where are they ending up? But I found them I found their whole motivation very fascinating to me.
They felt very cleanup crew to me. Like I think the gist that I got from the loom is they come in and clean up when shit is wrong. They're like, oh, you people fucked up, so we're just gonna come wipe everything clean and start over. It's very very the Judge in The Good Place.
Right, but who is there to tell them it's time to clean up? I mean, Wesley says it in the it removes all of history.
Yeah, it's like birds. Birds know when to fly south. The weather. I don't know.
For me, the loom were very meta for me, and the loom was like Paramount, right? Just coming in, fucking up shit, erasing, attempting to erase the story and remove it from existence. So I'm like, they were very much Paramount or CBS or whoever. But Krista, I couldn't agree with you so much more about how powerful like that ending was, because in some sense it's a very much parallel of episode 19, in that Gwen defeated Essentia, again by resistance and the sheer power of will. And they kind of defeated the loom. It was scaled up, right? Because it wasn't in a lot of fancy whatever. They literally just resisted and evaded, and were sheerly determined to get back and to set things right. And that this whole full circle moment was just these kids as crews determination to live free, right? And that again, there was just the sheer force of will. Again, resistance is not futile. And it was just, I thought it was impeccably done. Impeccably done.
Absolutely. We got a couple of fun moments that I want to make sure that we get to. They did it. They got the protostar back where it needed to be. We had a lovely full circle moment with Dal leaving his comm badge where he found it and where Rock found it. All those, I think at this point, they've been together over a year, certainly, and Rock many more. Oh, that's so sad. They did it, and we had some really fun stuff come up. They had a nice little epilogue. I love seeing Daystrom Institute, their logo. Like, we're gonna take this wormhole technology, this sort of portal device that you seem to have created, and make sure that it's never seen again until 2401. This interesting portal tech. Also a lovely tie-in to Star Trek Picard, which we have more of. But before we get to that moment, I want to take time to just acknowledge this lovely little moment that we had. Will finally called his mom, finally came in for a visit. He can't stay long, but then he met his little baby brother, and his little baby brother was like, "What's your name? I'm gonna age really quickly, but not too quickly." Thoughts on Gates and Will getting their moment? Trevor.
I particularly enjoyed that the conversation was cut short. So Jack asks Wesley what his name is, but Wesley doesn't ask Jack because that would have probably been an interesting conversation. Oh yes, Wes, I named him after your dead father. And he's actually Jean-Luc's son. And yeah, anyway.
Don't tell him.
Whatever you do, if you happen to bump into him while you're fixing the universe and time itself. So I found that delightful and also interesting in how it was structured. And I do have something that we talked about last segment that kind of ties in a little bit, though, just in Jillian's navigation, the echelon formation that Jillian travels in is something that whales do to protect their young. So I just thought that was interesting. And speaking of protecting young, Bev, and anyway, I was going to try to make a transition and I failed. So.
Wait a minute. Bev alert of all Bev alerts, everybody. It's Michelle in the chat. Welcome. The biggest Bev alert of them all. Good to see
Wow,
you.
Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello,
I love
Michelle.
We have a lurker.
I love that scene. I was hoping for something like that, and it was nice closure. It answered some questions that were left unanswered in Picard. And I find that that Prodigy tended to sort of gear itself to answering questions that were left unanswered in the other series. Series I. What is the plural of series?
Series.
Okay.
Series, yeah.
Series
Like Moose.
Somebody. Okay. So I was very happy with I expressed earlier in our seasons that's what I was hoping for, and I was just hoping for a phone call. So they doubled down and put him in person. I was like, okay, that works.
Yeah, you've
Although I
been
have
quite
to
the
say,
oracle this season, Krista.
I'm sorry.
You've been quite the oracle this season.
I wouldn't say that I've been the oracle. I mean, I think that the timey-wimey stuff, you've either got Q or Travelers, and because it's a kids show, I just didn't figure that the Q was really appropriate for kids.
Yeah.
So Will Wheaton would be more So, I mean, it was a guess. It was a very lucky guess. I'm not an oracle.
Well, whatever. Benji, we haven't heard from you in a minute, and I know that you're a big Crusher fan as well. What were your thoughts on that scene?
I thought the kid sounded real creepy. Yeah, I just reminded myself of a record that I did during the Picard thing.
Drag
because
that.
everybody's been saying Wesley Crusher, call your mother, and I like recorded this whole horrifying bit that I deleted because it was terrible, and all I can think about is that. Yeah, creepy little Jack. I'm glad we didn't see him. That's it. That's all I got.
All right, Ken, go for it.
I'm just gonna do. I don't think the animation of Gates McFadden as Beverly Crusher was very strong for some reason. I don't think they got her right. Which was a little weird because they got the Voyager characters pretty much spot on, but they didn't get her neither there or in the previous time that she appeared, in my opinion. So it's a little bit weird that they didn't get Gates McFadden as well as I thought they would have.
Yeah, they did better in the first season with the hollow version of her in the Kobayashi Maru episode.
I was gonna say they must have taken her face off and like just changed her hair. So how could she look that different?
Well, I don't know if it feels like they rebuilt it though, because like, let's also just be very clear. Like, Gates McFadden looks very different now than she did in TNG. There are some very noticeable features that are not quite the same. So it makes me feel like shut up, Will.
People age. All he is saying in his very bitchy way is that people age. Don't come for him.
That's not what I'm saying.
And sometimes people do it, and sometimes people age at a very high speed moving forward.
That's more of what I think. It's that is not translating into the CGI, the 3D render, the animation, because I don't know if they knew how to fully
prepare for ludicrous speed
like this into Beverly Crusher. And I love Gates McFadden. She looks great, but I do think that her face might not be the most, maybe a little challenging to translate into animation.
I think they were definitely they were, at least in this case, they were definitely trying to go like halfway between Bev from the holographic simulation and Bev that we see in Picard. So they were trying to meet that face somewhere in between. And I like that they actually went somewhere different with the hair. And I noticed when she turned around, it was like she had like the gray highlight that she still has in Picard, but it's like dark in the back. But she had, I think, red ginger in the back and the gray in the front. So they were trying to do something. I appreciate it. I actually kind of like that they went with that hairstyle, but it was like we were saying, I think earlier during the first watch through, that like a whole bunch of people, myself included, like didn't realize it was her at first. But I appreciate that they tried to do something different with her.
Speaking of different things, we have a new captain of Voyager, Captain Chakotay, the now captain of Voyager A, desperately trying to separate actor from the character, desperately trying to accept the complete mess that was the creation of that character we've discussed before. Very problematic origins, but for this season of Prodigy and what they did with making the character of Chakotay actually a lovely character, somebody that we could root for, seeing him take the captain's chair of the Voyager A when Catherine decided to retire in her giant home. These admirals and getting their giant homes, I'm all for it. Like, we're in a post-scarcity society, but I'm curious about the land usage.
I don't like the precedent that it's like, in order to become a successful captain, you have to come from like like rich Starfleet alumni, just like with colleges these days, in order to get
Yeah.
ahead.
Her admiral father.
They all have an estate.
Yeah.
We didn't know.
Well, I mean, she did say that she lived on a farm in Voyager, so like it's not that surprising. But also, I have farmers in my family. We do not have chateau level farmhouses.
If you read or listened to the biography of Captain Janeway, she makes it sound like she grew up in a fucking pig barn.
Yes,
This
yes.
is like
Wait, so
not that.
Are we trying to think?
She lied.
Maybe I want to back up. I didn't take that as that was her childhood home. I took that as that she built that as an admiral. Like, this is her home that she has created for herself on Earth, probably still in Indiana. But like, I didn't take that as that being her childhood home.
That is going to be added to our list of questions for next week. Plug for joining us next week for our interview with Aaron Waltke.
Because I would fully agree with everyone, but I thought that was one of those, like, I'm an admiral now. I have nearly unlimited replicator rations. I can just move around some financial things in Starfleet and make myself a big house.
Yes.
She got to save all her housing rations and just spend them all at the end.
Yeah.
And that's what
she was on a ship the whole time.
But so here's one thing I kind of liked about it, is the idea that, like, if you are putting that much into Starfleet and you are always on a ship and you are always gone and you are always doing this and this and this, you kind of have these two avenues. Either you become that, like, Picard, well, sort of Picard, where he always wants to be on a ship and he wants to die on the ship, or you become the Janeway of, like, okay, I'm taking a step back. The Janeway and Kirk, really, of I'm taking a step back. I have put all this time into being in space and my entire life being in space and moving around. I now get rewarded with having a beautiful home that I can come back to on a planet that is mine. Like I've given so much to Starfleet, and now I get this back. I kind of like that.
I dispute that was a beautiful home. I fully dispute that. I honestly,
Chris is like tacky.
It's big.
It was fucking posy, is what it was. It was posy, and it didn't look. I've been to Indiana. Go fuck yourself with that house. That's
okay.
Not-
Krista coming to us from the poster wing of her home.
Yeah, her architectural digest fucking house. Get over yourself.
How is the temperature in your mute?
It wasn't that nice.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Did you ever decide if you're gonna sleep in the Lincoln room or the
that tacky Indiana bullshit? Come on down to Louisiana.
I just want to say we made a dog Indiana. But anyway, so
or Ken,
I think they missed a mark, because do we see a dog? Do we see a dog when Chakotay comes back? Because Janeway is a big dog person. There should definitely
we
have
should
been
have
dogs.
seen tons of them, and I don't think we did. We should have. There should have been like an entire field full of Irish setters, and
I'm going to add that to the list of complaints for Aaron next week.
I wonder if he's
kidding.
Gonna be like, yeah, you just complained about Beverly's animation and you want us to animate an Irish setter?
I didn't say Irish setter. I just said a dog.
That was her dog.
Trev said it, though. Yeah.
Trev said Irish setter, yes.
If she's running an animal shelter out of that place, I'm okay with it.
Yes.
If that's her retirement gig.
But listen, whether she retired there or not, I mean, just kidding, because whoops.
Starfleet 9/11 happens.
Yeah. And good God. If you haven't seen Children of Mars, the short treks, definitely watch it. It's a really beautiful and haunting short trek. Synthetic labor on Mars and Utopia Planitia throughout the orbit goes rogue and attacks. We learn in Star Trek Picard, spoiler alert, that the Tal Shiar, or not the Tal Shiar, not the Kuat Malat.
The
Zhat Vash.
The Jatvash were behind the attack because of their aversion to synthetic life. And good God, we see that Starfleet has to pull back. They've lost tens of thousands of ships. The number ranged from the lowest number of death toll that I saw was 80,000 people. They banned synthetic life forms from being in the workforce. If you read the Picard tie-in novel, The Last Hope, you learn that that the synthetic life forms are invaluable because of some technology on ships requires very precise hand-eye coordination. It's I love Una McCormick. That was a very like thin justification for how important they were in starship construction, given that they are brand new technology. But I digress. Thoughts on synthetic life and AI? No. Thoughts on the tie-in to Children of Mars, the attack, and its impact on our Prodigy kids? Benji.
I like that it's sorry.
Will.
Go Benji, go. Go. No, go Benji, go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I'm just like interested to see like how they will like weave it in if we get season 3, how they'll weave it into like the Picard season 1 stuff. But also like I like this is all very tangential and maybe not Prodigy related, but like why like all of their enemies have been defeated at this point. There's no Dominion, there's no Borg, Klingons are our allies, the Romulans star blew up. Why do they have to like pull everything back? They don't have any enemies. Was the problem? Was what?
But not just pull back. Also, can we point out my only one actual gripe about this entire thing? They say they're sitting there and they say, "Oh, classes have been suspended." Why wouldn't you start shoving everyone through Starfleet Academy at that point? Like, okay, we're fast tracking you. By the way, you guys don't need to be in the academy anymore. You've already done. All right, next class in. Like, everyone's focusing on your core, curriculum. You don't get to have any extracurriculars. You could do all that later, like specialize later. Like, get as many people through to try to build your ranks back up.
Yeah.
To then keep, like, it didn't make sense to me that they shut Starfleet Academy down. Like, that would be the last thing you would do.
That's something I also felt about Discovery. Like, why wouldn't you, just because of the burn, why wouldn't you have an academy going? It kind of felt like I don't want to be too deferential. I think the Prodigy team is excellent, and they've produced some of the best Trek possible, or some of the best Trek that we've seen. But it does kind of feel like they were sort of written into this corner that they decided to tie themselves into with this bit, because it was a great place to send the Prodigy crew onto the USS Prodigy, which was a lovely bit. But yeah, like it felt like a writing challenge. They know that Starfleet had made certain choices because of what we saw in Star Trek Picard, so this is how we're going to tie in Prodigy to it. But I agree. I like, why close the school?
I think just like if this is Starfleet's 9/11, just like it's a very quick aside. Like, I was like, it was like my first like week or second week of university or something, and they like very briefly sort of shut things down, or things were sort of flexible. I think it makes sense. Just like Starfleet probably needs the officers working at the academy to do some shit immediately, and then probably shortly after that they would reopen things and start shoving kids through training.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's like a bit.
They say indefinitely. That doesn't mean burn like years. It could just be that semester. So who knows? Questions potentially for a co-executive producer / writer on the show, who will be joining us next week. But final thoughts on this episode, and these kids got a ship, and they didn't have to steal it, and they actually earned it. We've seen people get fast tracked before. This is the first time I have felt like I don't know exactly what this program is that Admiral Janeway is in charge of, but that's A, why I want to see a season 3, and B, more than Kelvin Universe Kirk, these kids have earned that assignment. It makes sense to me.
I hate to say one thing though, and I figured someone would bring it up, probably Trev.
The chair.
2 chairs. Woman can't be in charge. She can't just lead her own ship without a man by her side. And technically, he was sitting in the position of the captain's chair in Voyager. So it was like, didn't love it.
Also, was it his captaincy to give away? Like, who the fuck said he was captain in the first place? That he so graciously gave it to her.
Well,
That was
technically, he didn't
exactly
give it
what
away.
hit me immediately. I was like, I'm sorry, who was speaking to you?
Technically, he didn't give it away. He just said he would be at her side.
Right.
Well, there was an implication that he thought he was going to be captain.
It was
To me, it
between
was
the 2 of them and not the entire group.
It didn't hit me. It hit me as him just acknowledging that he wasn't going to be the captain, not that he was giving it up, but that he was acknowledging that it wasn't him. I watched
Yeah,
it.
I felt the 2-seat was like an homage to Voyager, like oh,
Yeah.
there's a 2-seat, like, but yeah, it does still reinforce the notion that a woman can't sit in the seat alone, which is ridiculous. His chair was smaller. I'll point that out.
They
I
literally
noticed
make a
was
joke about
smaller.
it. It wasn't. They literally make a joke out of it on the Orville because it's like the captain and first officer are a former married couple, and they have 2 chairs right next to each other.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
ultimately, when you're dealing with in a position like that, there can't be 2. There always has to be 1. One is the person that has to be responsible for everything. You can put as many chairs as you want, but there's always going to be one person that really carries the responsibility of the whole thing.
I will say though, Matt, I was actually comfortable, or maybe Will said it, I can't remember. The way that they were seated with the captain being, like, the first officer being to the captain's right makes more sense to me if you're going to have 2 seats. I realize that Voyager flipped it, but I actually like that dynamic if you're going to do 2. It shouldn't be 2, it should always be odd numbers. That's just me.
I will
But
say
I
I
think-
have to agree with that too, because you have like you always say like your second command is your right hand. And so like, and admittedly on the D, Riker was always to the captain's right. No, I will agree. I always thought that was a weird thing on Voyager, that she was on. I always thought it was a filming thing, like the angles of the camera that they would regularly go to, like that's why they put her on that side. But for this, I was glad that they swapped it. I still don't understand why they didn't put him somewhere else.
You got to get that.
That this is a situation where they don't follow, we're all talking about Star Trek and Starfleet and the way captains are. I think this is deference to the fact that, again, this is a kid's show that had a female lead and a male lead, and they wanted to just put the 2 of them side by side as just continuing the message of, working together. I don't really think they thought in too great detail about what we're all talking about here.
Fuck working together.
It actually would have been a great time to use the disco model of a bridge where the XO actually is at a standing station and the science officer is at another station, because then having added a character this season who wasn't on the bridge last season, she could have been at the science station and Dahl could have stepped over to the XO.
That was my one, like, this is the weirdest kind of nitpick that I've ever had. I think something that I found frustrating when I was trying to do these visuals is there is not a good everybody shot as they pull out. I'm not pushing the button. As the camera pulls back, Hollow Janeway gets is seen in front of Gwen, which maybe, now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe that's a fun little homage to Captain Janeway, but I was trying to get a screenshot of all of them on the bridge in their new stations, in their new uniforms, but it was too quick, and Hollow Janeway was in the way. But I love the way that the show ended with them going off on an adventure. So I want to close us out with a question of, what do you all think this mission, this project of Janeway's is? She's allowed to have this one ship of former Starfleet hopefuls, then cadets, and now field commission ensigns. What do we think their mission is? They've got this one ship that was deemed impractical, but we're not going to decommission it because Admiral Janeway fought for this program. What do we think that program is?
Wasn't it what she said? It was continuing to go out and discover new life and new
civilizations to boldly go.
Yeah, feed it to me.
Mumble more, Ken.
Drink. And a mammogram. Fuck all y'all.
Is it like with
I mean, yes, I presume it is based on her Admiral, I object speech. But is it just random exploration, keeping it up, or is it, sending these kids out to do second contact, be like, hey, we've had to pull back, but we're still out here? I know, Will, I'm asking for headcanon. I see you rolling your eyes.
I think that they sent them into Zenkethy space to figure out what the fuck's going on over there.
Still an open question. Trevor, give us the tallies. Fuck all y'all.
Also, really quickly, I want to say one thing. We officially have too many uniforms. We officially have too many fucking uniforms in this goddamn universe.
That's why I thought every time.
No, just this show. Just this show. They've had 5 uniforms, which I normally love, but these last ones, I'm sorry.
Too many. No. Those look like shit. I'm sorry. It was too many. Too many. Aaron Watke, you're gonna hear from me. Too many uniforms. Stop changing the goddamn uniform so much.
Y'all are crazy. These were hot.
This is coming from DTI. How are you supposed to tell what time period people are in when they time travel from season to season?
How am I supposed to be able
How are you going to tell when there's 75 happening at the same time?
Right.
You can like narrow it down to like the week for that uniform.
Literally. Yeah. Oh yeah, they change it every 2 weeks. It's actually on a rotation. You get your pay. It's on payroll. You have to change your uniform every time you get your new rations.
Yeah.
I just appreciate that we've finally answered that question. How do you piss off a bunch of homosexuals? Changed costumes too many times.
Yes. Pissed off the cosplayers and the homosexuals. Too many costume changes. A sensible 3. That's it. I found it interesting. Like it's a good turning of the page moment, but like I thought just be in the Picard season 1 flashback uniforms like Janeway was. That would have worked. It would have been cute, and that's why one of the reasons why I've decided that Jellicoe was just being hyperbolic when he was saying we don't have enough comm badges. That was just his way of saying our resources are too limited now. But then we get brand new uniforms, and yes, it does need to be a tearaway, like the Bajoran, or not the Betazoid Intelligence Agency, the BIA. They're tearaway uniforms. Maybe they're tearaway, and then they're in swimsuits to go into like a mini cetacean ops on the Protostar.
Or it turns into a scant.
Ooh, yes, a tearaway into a scant. That's a great idea. Y'all, this has been lovely. We did it. We landed the ship. Everything is great. We've got some fun stuff to talk about, so let's hear from Trevor. Give us hi Jadzia.
Hey.
Oh, look at that little baby.
Yes.
I can hear all the mouth sounds.
It's ASMR, Jadzia. Oh god. Oh,
Trevor, give us the tallies for the evening, please.
And here is your scorecard, folks. There were 7 problematic gay alerts. Probably should have been more, but there were 7. There were 2 Bev alerts, though probably more. 2 tosser alerts, 1 problematic ally alert. Bonus points. I gave 25 bonus points to Ken in the pre-show for finally acknowledging that he needs blinking lessons. 1,986 bonus points to Krista for having a whale of a time with Captain Jillian. 450 bonus points to Will for just being sweet on all of us. 1,000 bonus points to Benji for acknowledging creepy kid voices, and all of the remaining bonus points to the writers of Star Trek Prodigy for a wonderful and delightful story.
Yes. Cheers to the team at Star Trek Prodigy. Thank you for an incredible show. We all hope you get a season 3, but the way that you all landed the ship with season 2, kudos. Cheers to you. Matt, you see,
I did you said landing the ship.
That's
We also forgot to point out that Voyager can land. Apparently, that was the other thing we learned. Anyway,
or it could have just been floating. We didn't see feet.
There was a pot.
It did look floating.
Down.
Yeah.
Well, either way, a sovereign class,
along.
the size of a sovereign class, can just hover now. So that's a fun little.
Jane, that's the one hand canon I'll accept. Janeway says every ship she captains has to be able to land, and they're like,
okay, she can land the ship.
Every starship I fly must be able to land. Yeah.
All right,
And
y'all. Speaking of,
Will landed the ship once.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tally is completed. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. This has been lovely. We always have a great time on the Salon. We will be back next week at our usual time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, talking about all of season 2. And we've got some fun stuff to discuss with regard to the character developments, the fun little tidbits, a bunch of stuff that we didn't get to in each of our deep dives. And again, I want to remind folks, you want to smash that subscribe button and hit that notify me button, because an hour in at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, we will be joined by Aaron Walke, who is the co-executive producer and writer on Star Trek Prodigy. You've seen him in the chat several times. We're excited to have him live next week. So be sure to subscribe, hit that notify me button so that you'll get the reminder. And as always, please do like and subscribe anywhere and everywhere. Any support you can give us is appreciated and very helpful. Until next week, we hope you all live long and prosper.
All hands abandon ship. Proceed to the nearest evacuation zone immediately.